Minors, are they able to contract? Are they able to enter into a contract? Someone that's under 18 years old. Someone that's incompetent. Now, I was asked yesterday, I was actually given this deal to someone kind of practicing, and they said, what the heck does incompetent mean, Scott? Does that mean I completely understand the contract? Or what exactly does that mean? Well, incompetency usually is you need to know that you're entering into a contract. You may not understand all the terms, okay? But you need to know, essentially, that you're entering into a contract to buy a house, to buy a car, to, you know, for whatever reason, to hire an attorney, right? Okay? That's the competency thing. You need to know what you're doing at that time, all right? And then if you're drunk or under the influence of some other mind-altering substance, are you able to enter into a contract? Well, do you have the capacity to enter the contract?
I'll do that.
Dan's always like that, but we're going to talk about the parties of the contract. All right. Who's the contract between? You need to make sure that you know who the contract is between. Okay? Who are you signing on behalf of? Are you signing on behalf of yourself as an individual, or are you signing on behalf of a corporation? There's many contracts out there that what happens is that someone signs, intending to sign on behalf of a corporation, and signs on behalf of themselves. Okay, I see it time and time and time again where people do that. And you got to be really, really careful, because all of a sudden when you have this corporate veil, that's the reason we set up our corporations, right? Is to protect ourselves from individual liabilities in case something just happened in the contract and you should get sued. You want to make sure that it's the corporation that's responsible and not you personally, right? Okay. And if you do sign it wrong, there's a chance that if there's liability that's asserted, that you can be individually liable. All right? So let's talk about if you're signing up a contract on behalf of a corporation. You need to identify the parties to the contract clearly. Okay? Make sure you have the full name, Widget Manufacturing Inc. Okay? V-Team, LLC, Erickson Asphalt Inc. Right? You need to make sure you have the correct, proper legal name. You need to verify your position with the company. What are you? Are you the CEO, Chief Executive Officer? Are you the President? Are you the Vice President, Chief Manager, Chief Financial Officer, Secretary? What is your position, okay? And the bottom line is you've got to review your corporate documents to determine what is your position, okay? The big thing is, this is where it really comes into play, is when I'm entering into a contract with Computer Wrangler, okay? Computer Wrangler really should be contacting or looking at my documents to say, okay, Scott, what is your position with various offices, okay? Are you actually the president? You know, what documents can I see? Because, hey, this is an important contract. This is a, you know, several tens of $1,000s contract. We want to make sure that this is, you know, that your corporate capacity is true and correct, and you're not just signing and you have no corporate designation to do it. We actually have a case right now that we're working on where the parties sign, and we can't find anywhere in our corporate documents, and in this case it's good for us, that the parties that signed it were actually officers of the company. That creates a problem. Okay?
Wait a minute, what you're saying is that if you're working with somebody at a different company and you sign a contract with them, and you find out 6 months later, a year later, that they don't really have legal capacity to have signed that contract?
It could be a problem. It could be a problem. And so you got to, I mean, you know, certain kind of contracts are smaller contracts, so you may not have to worry about that. But when you're entering into bigger, larger contracts, you need to make sure that you know how they're signing, why they're signing it that way. Okay? That's really important.
If you've got a, say for instance, an LLC, and there's a partnership involved, and you really don't have a company designation, but you are a owner of the company, can you sign it as owner, or does there need to be a designation if there's no specific structure?
The way that a lot of people do sign it as owner,
Okay.
in my opinion, what you should be signing it as, and it depends upon what your operating agreement in LLC says and what your member control agreement says, in an LLC. Because a lot of times it's, LLCs can be a manager controlled or a member controlled, okay? And it all depends upon what your documents say as to who should be signing and how they should be signing it. Okay?
Related question, Scott. With multi-manager LLCs, can one of the members sign a contract, or do all of the members need to sign the contract?
If you're on the other side of a contract, you want to have all the members sign the contract, okay? Just to protect yourself, all right? Or you want to see the documents that provide the authority of that one member to be able to sign it, okay? Because that creates a potential problem, okay? Because you want to know what they say.
Just a kind of a question on that, just to clarify. So if I'm the owner of a company, but my company documentation states that I don't have any authority to agree to contracts, to sign into contracts. It's not enough just to say that I'm the owner of the company if I'm signing a contract with somebody, because they wouldn't know whether or not I have authority to make any decision or not.
I mean, most of the time, and then what I'm talking about is trying to avoid litigation, trying to avoid disputes down the road. I mean, most of the time, people are gonna come and they're gonna say, this is what I am, this is my capacity, and they're gonna be pretty straight with you. But there are times that I've seen it that people don't know. I mean, the case that we're working on right now, like I said, is they did not have the corporate authority to do it, and it created a big problem when we got a big lawsuit that's going on because of it. And those are the reasons that you need to make sure that you protect yourself, because you wanna make sure that that contract, if you're entering into them, is absolutely 100% valid.
But it is possible for a multi-member LLC to have a member control agreement that states that one of the members can enter into contracts.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. And as long as you have the documentation to support that, and if the other side, you see the documentation, that's good enough, yeah.
So would you recommend or not, I mean, most of the time when I'm dealing with larger corporations, the middle management is signing the contract, say like the facilities manager at Fairview or something like that, they'll sign the contract.
And I think with the bigger corporations, you're probably safer in entering it. It's the smaller corporations that you gotta be really careful about. Because the smaller corporations a lot of times don't know who has the authority to do it, or they may not have the authority. That's what I find. For the bigger corporations, you're usually okay.
And I think you're covering yourself to a degree, having that statement in there about, this person has the authority to sign this contract.
The other thing is that when we're talking about individuals and corporations and, who should be signing these contracts and entering into these contracts, when you're contracting with somebody else, we're talking about the corporate designations and making sure that they have the authority to bind the corporation. One of the other things that you need to make a determination is it at a time when you want them to sign personally? Because there are times that you guys want them to have signed personally, because again, they set up their corporation to protect them, so they may have limited assets in their corporation. If they have limited assets in their corporation and you have to go sue them on it and you get a judgment and there's nothing there, So there are times that you guys want to have them sign off and be individually responsible for the contracts. And that's something that you need to make a consideration when you're going through and doing this. I mean, it may be in a form of personal guarantee. It may just be a form of a personal obligation. And we do a lot of asset purchase agreements or business, purchase agreements where we have specifically the sellers sign off individually, despite the fact it's a corporation that's selling the assets, because once the corporation sells its assets, there's nothing left. Okay, so we want to make sure that the shareholders of the corporation are individually guaranteeing and warranting that these assets are free and clear, that these assets will work, that these, that the warranties that are contained in the purchase agreement are true and correct. Okay, that's one thing that we do, and that's something that you need to consider when you're entering into the contracts. Okay? Any other questions on that stuff? I have a lot of concerned looks out there, so. Bottom line is when you're signing a contract, you want to avoid signing individually.